They say rock bottom has a basement. I found it on a rainy Tuesday in November. My ex-wife, Sarah, didn't just leave me. She destroyed me. I remember standing in our living room, the one with the peeling wallpaper and the drafty windows. She was holding a suitcase in one hand and her car keys in the other. She looked at me with eyes that didn't have any hate in them. That would have been easier. Instead, her eyes were filled with pity. Absolute, crushing pity. She said, "Thomas, you are a good man. But you are a small man. You have small dreams, a small bank account, and a small life. I can't breathe here anymore. I don't want to wake up in 20 years and realize I'm still clipping coupons to buy bread. You are exactly like your father, content with crumbs." Then she walked out. She took the dog. She took the car. She even took the ice cube trays from the freezer. And me? I sat on the floor and cried until my throat bled. She was right. I was 52 years old, and my greatest achievement was being the head janitor at the massive Omnicorp skyscraper in downtown Chicago. I spent my nights cleaning up after men who made more money in a minute than I made in a year. But what Sarah didn't tell me, what she didn't have the courage to say, was that she wasn't leaving me for some vague idea of a better life. She was leaving me for someone else. A man named Marcus Webb. He was an investment banker on the 65th floor of Omnicorp. Tailored suits, a Rolex watch, a penthouse apartment overlooking Lake Michigan. Everything I wasn't. Everything I could never be. I found out 3 days after she left. One of the other night cleaners, a kid named Danny, pulled me aside in the break room. "Tom," he said quietly, "I think you should know. I saw your wife. I saw Sarah, getting into an elevator with Marcus Webb 2 weeks ago. They looked pretty close." The words hit me like a physical blow. 2 weeks. She had been cheating on me for at least 2 weeks. How long had it really been going on? Had she been with him while I was working? While I was mopping the very floors beneath his desk? I confronted her that night. She didn't deny it. She didn't even apologize. Instead, she laughed, a cold, bitter laugh, and said, "Thomas, did you really think I was going to spend the rest of my life with you? Marcus showed me what real success looks like. He showed me what it's like to not worry about money. He showed me what it's like to matter. So you threw away 15 years of marriage?" I asked, my voice breaking. "I didn't throw anything away," she said, inspecting her nails. "I upgraded. Marcus is already talking about moving to New York. He says I'd be perfect on his arm at the right social events. He says I have potential. Potential. As if being married to me had suffocated her potential. As if my love, my loyalty, my everything had been a waste. The divorce was quick and brutal. Sarah's lawyer was ruthless. She took half of everything I had, which wasn't much, but it was all I had. 15 years of savings, gone. The house we had scraped together a down payment for, gone. She got it all because the judge saw it as fair. 50-50. Even though she had already moved in with Marcus in his penthouse. That was my life. I was a ghost in a blue uniform. I arrived at the tower at 8 p.m. and left at 4 a.m. I emptied trash cans filled with sandwich wrappers that cost $20. I polished mahogany desks that I wasn't allowed to sit behind. I wiped fingerprints off the glass walls of the 80th floor executive suites, looking out at the city lights, wondering what it felt like to matter. I started avoiding the 65th floor. I couldn't bear the thought of cleaning Marcus Webb's office, of seeing traces of him, of knowing that he had taken everything from me. So I asked Danny to cover that floor for me. He didn't ask questions. He just did it. I was raised by a single father, a man named Arthur. He was a gentle soul who worked as a greenskeeper at a golf course. We lived in a trailer park on the edge of town. We didn't have money, but we had books. Arthur taught me to read before I could walk. He told me, "Tommy, richness isn't what's in your pocket. It's what's in your head." But looking at my reflection in the dark window of the 80th floor, holding a mop bucket that smelled of industrial bleach, I knew Arthur was wrong. Richness was definitely what was in your pocket. Because without it, you were invisible. You were nothing. You lost your wife, your house, your dignity. You lost everything. Arthur died 3 years before Sarah left me. He died of a lung infection because we couldn't afford the best specialists. He died holding my hand, smiling, telling me he was proud of me. Proud of what? Proud that I could buff a floor until it shined? Proud that I was invisible? I didn't understand then why he had been so insistent about keeping me poor, about teaching me that money didn't matter. All I knew was that his poverty had infected me, had made me weak, had made me unworthy. So, there I was. November 12, 2024. The storm outside was battering the glass of the skyscraper. Thunder shook the floor beneath my feet. I was in the CEO's office, the big one at the very top. Mr. Sterling's office. Mr. Sterling was a myth. No one saw him. He was 90 years old, the owner of Omnicorp, a man who owned half the city. I had cleaned his office for 15 years and never met him once. I just knew his rules: don't touch the papers. Don't sit in the chair. Leave the room exactly as you found it. It was 2:30 a.m. I was vacuuming the heavy Persian rug when the private elevator doors chimed. My heart stopped. No one came up here at this hour. Security was supposed to call me if anyone was coming. The doors slid open. But it wasn't security. And it wasn't a young executive working late. It was a woman. She looked to be in her late 40s, wearing a rain-soaked trench coat and holding a silver briefcase. She looked terrified. Her mascara was running down her cheeks. She stepped out of the elevator and saw me holding the vacuum cleaner. "Are you him?" she asked, her voice shaking. I turned off the vacuum. The silence in the room was deafening. "I'm the janitor, ma'am. I can leave." I didn't know anyone was. "Stop," she commanded. She walked over to the massive oak desk and threw the briefcase onto it. Then she looked at me, really looked at me. She studied my hairline, my chin, the scar above my left eyebrow. "My God. It's you. You have his eyes." "I think you have the wrong person," I said, gripping the handle of the vacuum. "My name is Thomas. Thomas Clark." "I know who you are," she whispered. "My name is Elena Sterling. I am Richard Sterling's granddaughter." The name hit me. Sterling. The owner of the building. The man who signed my paychecks. "Mr. Sterling passed away an hour ago," Elena said. Tears welled up in her eyes again. "The board of directors is meeting downstairs right now. They are like vultures. They are ready to tear this company apart. They think they are going to inherit everything." I took a step back. "I'm sorry for your loss, ma'am. But why are you telling me this?" "I just empty the trash." Elena laughed. It was a dry, bitter sound. You really don't know, do you? You have no idea. She opened the silver briefcase. Inside, there was no money. There were no gold bars. There was just a thick, leather-bound book and a sealed blue envelope. My grandfather was a ruthless man, Elena said, pacing the room. He built an empire on blood and bones. He destroyed his competitors. He fired thousands of people to save pennies. He was a monster to the world. But he had one secret. One regret that haunted him for 50 years. She picked up the blue envelope and walked toward me. The smell of expensive perfume mixed with the smell of rain. 52 years ago, my grandfather had an affair with the daughter of his maid. It was a scandal that would have ruined his upcoming merger. When the girl got pregnant, he paid her to disappear. He thought she got an abortion. He moved on, got richer, got colder. My chest felt tight. Ma'am, please. She didn't get an abortion, Elena interrupted. She died in childbirth. But the baby lived. The baby was taken in by the gardener, a man who loved the girl and promised to protect the child from the Sterling family. He promised to hide the boy so he wouldn't turn into a monster like his father. I dropped the vacuum handle. It clattered to the floor. The gardener, I whispered. Arthur. Arthur Clark, she confirmed. He wasn't your father, Thomas. He was your guardian. He stole you to save you. He raised you in poverty because he believed that poverty would teach you kindness, while wealth would only teach you greed. My knees gave out. I sat down on the CEO's expensive rug. The room was spinning. Arthur. My dad. The man who clipped coupons and wore shoes with holes in them. He wasn't my father. He hid me. Why now? I choked out. Why tell me now? Elena pointed to the leather book in the briefcase. Because my grandfather found out the truth 3 months ago. He hired private investigators. He watched you. He watched you on the security cameras. He saw how you treated the other staff. He saw you share your sandwich with the homeless man outside the lobby. He saw you pick up a bird that hit the window and nurse it back to health. He watched you clean his toilet for minimum wage without ever complaining. Elena's voice broke. He realized that the gardener was right. You are the only Sterling who isn't broken. You are the only one who knows what it means to work. She handed me the blue envelope. This is his last will and testament. It was notarized 4 hours ago, right before he died. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely tear the paper. I pulled out a single document. It was short. To the son I never knew. I spent my life building a tower that reaches the clouds, but I lived in the dirt. I leave you Omnicorp. I leave you the building, the assets, the accounts, and the burden. All of it. 100% of my controlling interest. My board of directors will try to fight you. My family will hate you. But you have something they don't. You have calluses on your hands. You know the value of $1 because you've had to sweat for it. Do not become me. Stay the man Arthur raised you to be. P.S. You can stop cleaning the floors now, son. You own the floor. Richard Sterling. I stared at the paper. The numbers blurred. Omnicorp was worth $4 billion. The board is coming up, Elena said, wiping her face. They have lawyers. They are going to try to intimidate you. They are going to tell you that a janitor can't run a global conglomerate. They are going to offer you $1 million to walk away. She looked at me, her eyes fierce. What are you going to do, Thomas? I stood up. I looked down at my blue uniform with the name tag that said, Tom. I looked at my hands, rough and scarred from years of harsh chemicals and heavy lifting. I thought about Sarah calling me small. I thought about Arthur, who died because he couldn't afford a doctor, all while protecting me from $1 billion destiny because he wanted me to be a good man. I wasn't just a janitor anymore. I was the product of a sacrifice. The elevator chimed again. This time, it was a group of 6 men in expensive suits. They stormed in, looking angry, looking powerful. They saw me standing there in my work boots. Who is this? One of them barked. Security. Get this trash out of here. We have a crisis to manage. I looked at the man. I knew him. He was Mr. Henderson, the CFO. I had emptied his trash can every night for 10 years. He had never once looked me in the eye. I walked behind the massive oak desk. The chair was leather, high-backed, and looked like a throne. I sat down in it. It squeaked slightly. Get out of that chair. Henderson yelled, his face turning red. That is Mr. Sterling's chair. I placed my hands on the desk. I looked at Elena, who gave me a small, terrified nod. Then I looked at Henderson. It's not Mr. Sterling's chair anymore, I said. My voice was calm. It was the voice of a man who had nothing left to lose. And my name is not trash. My name is Thomas Sterling. And you, Mr. Henderson, are fired. You can't. I can, I said, sliding the will across the desk. I own the building. I own the company. And I own the very expensive rug you are standing on with your muddy shoes. The room went silent. The kind of silence you only hear in a graveyard. That was 6 months ago. My first act as CEO wasn't to throw a party or move into a penthouse. It was to clean house. Literally and figuratively. I called an all-hands meeting. I stood in the main auditorium, still wearing my blue uniform jacket over a new suit that felt foreign on my skin. I looked out at the faces of everyone from the mailroom to the executive suite. And I told them the truth. I told them I used to clean these floors. I told them I knew every corner of this building, every dark secret, every place where people thought they could get away with treating others like garbage. Then I issued my first executive orders. Every employee at Omnicorp would receive comprehensive health care. Every janitor, every security guard, every parking attendant would receive a 40% raise, effective immediately. There would be no more separate cafeterias for executives and staff. There would be no more reserved parking spots. There would be no more hierarchy of human worth. The board was apoplectic. Henderson tried to sue. But I owned the company. I had the will. And more importantly, I had the moral high ground that Richard Sterling had apparently spent his last 3 months cultivating. Then I went through the employee roster personally. I looked at every name, cross-referenced it with my memories of the building. And when I found the name Marcus Webb, investment banker, 65th floor, salary, $2.3 million annually, my blood turned to ice. Marcus Webb. The man who had stolen my wife. The man who had paraded her around the penthouse while I was mopping floors. The man who had looked right through me for years without ever seeing me. I requested his file. I read through his performance reviews. They were stellar, excellent numbers, high client retention, strong portfolio management. On paper, He was exactly the kind of person you wanted running investments for your company. But I knew something the file didn't tell me. I knew he was a man who destroyed other men's lives for personal gain. I knew he saw people as conquests, as things to be used and discarded. I knew because he had done it to me. I called him into my office. It was early morning, before most of the staff arrived. Marcus walked in, confident, carrying his leather briefcase. He didn't recognize me at first. I was no longer in my blue uniform. I was in a tailored suit, sitting behind the desk that had once belonged to Richard Sterling. "Marcus Webb," I said, my voice steady. "Thank you for coming." His face shifted as recognition dawned. You're the janitor. I saw you at the, how did you?" "I'm the new CEO," I said quietly. "My name is Thomas Sterling." "And you're fired." His face went white. "You can't, on what grounds?" "I have contracts." "I have." "You have nothing," I interrupted. "You violated the moral code that this company is now built upon. You knowingly engaged in infidelity with an employee's spouse. You treated a human being, my wife, as a status symbol. You looked through people like they were invisible. And you did it all while being paid an obscene amount of money by this company." "This is insane," Marcus sputtered. "You can't fire me based on my personal life. That's discrimination. I'll sue." "Sue all you want," I said. "But here's the thing, Marcus. I'm not firing you based on your personal life alone. I'm firing you because I've reviewed your investment portfolios. You've been cutting corners with client funds. You've been moving money between accounts in ways that violate SEC regulations. Your assistant has provided testimony. There are documents. There are emails." This part was true. When I had a team of forensic accountants and lawyers go through his files, they found exactly what I suspected. Marcus wasn't just immoral, he was illegal. "The choice is yours," I continued. "You can resign quietly, and I'll make sure the SEC investigation is thorough but private. Or you can fight me, and I'll make sure every detail becomes public. Your career will be destroyed either way. But if you resign, there's a chance you might rebuild somewhere else, someday." Marcus's face had gone a sickly shade of gray. "You're destroying me." "No," I said, looking him directly in the eye. "You destroyed yourself. I'm just finally making you visible." He left my office an hour later. By evening, the news broke through the financial sector like wildfire. Marcus Webb, the hotshot investment banker, was stepping down amid an SEC investigation into his financial practices. Within weeks, his assets were frozen. His penthouse was seized. His bank accounts were drained by legal fees. By month 2, he had filed for bankruptcy. I didn't feel satisfied. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt empty. Because destroying Marcus Webb didn't give me back my years with Sarah. It didn't erase the shame I had felt at being invisible. It just made me realize that I was capable of being just as ruthless as Richard Sterling had been, just with a different moral framework. But the story doesn't end there. 3 months after I fired Marcus Webb, Sarah saw my face on the cover of Business Weekly. From janitor to billionaire CEO, the headline screamed. The rags to riches story that's shocking Wall Street. She called me. Of course she did. I was in my office on the 80th floor, our floor, when my assistant told me Mrs. Sarah Sterling was on the line. My ex-wife. She still used my name, even after the divorce. I almost didn't take the call. But I was curious. "Hello, Thomas," she said, her voice smooth as silk. "It's been a while." "Sarah," I replied. "What can I do for you?" "I saw the magazine," she said. "I saw your face." "Thomas, I had no idea." "How did you become?" "It doesn't matter how," I said flatly. "What do you want?" There was a pause. "I made a terrible mistake, Thomas. Leaving you, I mean. I was so focused on what you didn't have that I never saw what you were. And now that you have everything, I think I finally understand what I lost." "What you lost?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Sarah, what I lost was you. What I lost was 15 years of my life. What I lost was my dignity, my home, my sense of self-worth. And what you gained was Marcus Webb. How's that working out for you?" Silence. Then, quietly, he left me. When his money disappeared, when his career ended, he didn't need me anymore. He was only interested in me as an accessory. I realized too late that you were never like that. You loved me. "Yes," I said. "I did. And you were willing to trade that love, that real, genuine, unconditional love, for penthouse apartments and expensive watches. You called me small, Sarah. You said I was content with crumbs. But you know what? I have never once called you small. I never tried to change you. I loved you exactly as you were." "Thomas, I'm sorry," she said, and I could hear tears in her voice. "I know sorry doesn't fix anything, but I am. I made a mistake. I was shallow and ungrateful and—" "You were human," I interrupted. "And you wanted more than I could give you. That's not a crime, Sarah. But it is a choice. And every choice has consequences." She waited, hoping I would soften. But I didn't. "I need to know something," I said. "And I need you to be honest with me. When you were with Marcus, when you were in that penthouse, did you ever think about me? Did you ever wonder if you had made a mistake?" She hesitated for too long. Yes. Sometimes. But you didn't come back," I finished for her. "You didn't call. You didn't reach out until you saw my name on a magazine cover. That tells me everything I need to know." "What are you saying?" she asked softly. I took a deep breath. This was the moment. This was where I could choose to be bitter, or I could choose to be free. "I'm saying goodbye, Sarah. I'm saying that I forgive you, not for your sake, but for mine. I'm saying that I wish you well, and I hope that you find happiness. But I also hope that you understand that some doors, once closed, don't open again. You're not part of my life anymore. And you never will be." "Thomas, wait." I hung up the phone. I didn't keep the money for myself. Not really. I set up a fund for single fathers. I created a healthcare program for every employee at Omnicorp, from the executives down to the night cleaners. Especially the cleaners. I made sure that Marcus Webb's stolen wealth was returned to the clients he had defrauded. I donated $50 million to support victims of infidelity and divorce, because I understood their pain in a way most people never would. I didn't move into a mansion. I bought the golf course where Arthur used to work and turned it into a public park. I named it Arthur Clark Memorial Park. On the opening day, I stood at the entrance, and I cried. I cried for the man who had raised me. I cried for the man I used to be. I cried for all the years I had spent thinking that love wasn't enough, that poverty was shame, that being invisible was my fault. But I also cried with gratitude. Because Arthur had been right. Richness wasn't what was in your pocket. It was what you became when you finally realized that some things, kindness, integrity, love, were worth more than any amount of money. I still work nights sometimes. Not because I have to, but because I want to. I walk the halls of the 80th floor when the building is quiet. I clean my own office. I mop the floors. I pick up trash that my employees dropped and didn't notice. And I look out at the city lights. But I don't feel like a ghost anymore. I finally understand what Arthur meant. He didn't hide the money to keep me poor. He hid the money to make sure that when I finally got it, I would be the kind of man who knew what to do with it. He wanted me to be a man who would lift others up instead of stepping on them. He wanted me to be a man who would see people, really see them, instead of looking right through them. I am Thomas Sterling. I used to mop the floors. Now, I build the foundations. And trust me, the view is much better when you've seen it from the bottom. And Marcus Webb? He moved out of state last year. I heard through the grapevine that he's working as a financial advisor for a small firm in Denver. No penthouse. No Rolex. Just a man who learned, too late, that you can't build happiness on the destruction of others. As for Sarah, I haven't heard from her since that day. Part of me hopes she found happiness. But mostly, I'm just grateful that she's no longer part of my story. My story isn't about her, or about Marcus Webb, or even about Richard Sterling. It's about a man named Arthur Clarke who taught his adopted son that the greatest wealth is the wealth of character. And that man, that quiet, gentle man who worked on a golf course and lived in a trailer park, turned out to be the richest man I've ever known. The basement under rock bottom was actually a foundation. And I was finally ready to build on it.